Well, hello, my dear friends. Here it is, July 4th, can you believe? And we're still social distancing, and we're having our Sunday school class this way. And I miss you. I miss the questions. I miss the discussions. I even miss it when different people have different ideas of what this is all about. I like the discourse. Today our lesson, and I think I said last Sunday, I'm not sure, but I think I may have said that we were moving on from wisdom, but guess what? We got a whole nother month of wisdom. Today the lesson is vindicating wisdom, and it comes from Matthew, the 11th chapter, the 7th through the 19th verse. Next week, the title is going to be The Boy Jesus. And it comes from Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, the 1st through the 15th verses, and Luke, the 2nd chapter, the 12th, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Luke, 2nd chapter, verse 12, and 39 and 52. I might have to give you that one again. My writing is not working for me. I want to thank my friend Joyce Vanell. I couldn't find my book for anything, and so I called her, and not only did she offer me her book, which I didn't take, I'm gonna find mine, but she gave me the lessons for this week. I also want to thank my son Stephen. He doesn't live here, but he comes over every Saturday and tapes this with me, and so I want to thank him. It's good to be appreciative for the big things and the small things that people do for you. Now, for me, these are big things because I couldn't do this without you. I couldn't do it without you, and I couldn't do it without them. Let me glass up. I still need my glasses. And I'm going to read to you from the message. But I'm also going to refer back to the King James Version because at the end of this, I really like the statement that Jesus made. This is Jesus. He's talking to his disciples. He has been speaking and teaching. In the 11th chapter, he's been speaking to people. He's been speaking to his disciples and trying to get them to understand what his main message is. And so once again, here we come. We're going to talk about vindicating wisdom. And this lesson introduces a character that we all know. Actually, it introduces two characters. The character that Jesus is speaking about today is John the Baptist, but he refers to him as Elijah come again. So I suggest that you go back and you look at the story of Elijah in the Old Testament and the prophecies about Elijah, the fact that Elijah was taken up. He did not die in the normal sense of what we consider death. And I just suggest that you go back and read that and that you seek understanding to understand this particular scripture here. You pray for it, you meditate on it, you talk to other people about it, just to get wisdom on this lesson. Here we go. Okay. Matthew 11, 7 through 19. Let me tell you what's going on here. No one in history, well, I'm going to start back. Okay. When John's disciples left to report, Jesus started talking to the crowd about John. Now, I forgot to tell you this. John the Baptist is in prison at this point of the scripture. And he has heard about the things that Jesus is doing. Jesus is healing the sick. The blind is able to see. Lepers are being cleansed. And so he sends his disciples that have visited him in the prison. He says, go and find out. Ask this man if he is the Messiah who we've been promised. And so here we go. I'm going to read. I said I was going to read it out of here first. I know I'm confusing y'all, but just work with me. I'm going to read it first out of the King James Version so that you can see how this goes together. And they departed. Jesus began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in the king's house. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yes, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, they have not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding that he is the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. He who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied unto John. And if you will receive this, this is Elijah, which was for to come. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets and calling unto their fathers and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented. For John came, neither eating nor drinking, and they say, He hath a devil. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man gluttonous and a winebibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. But wisdom is justified of her children. And that's what I want. That last statement is what I wanted to make sure that you got from this lesson, because the reason that the lesson is entitled of the vindication of wisdom is that it shows us the things that we think about what makes a person great or what makes a person not great. But what Jesus is saying here, as I understand it, is that John the Baptist was great because he put the least of these in front of himself. And he says that makes him the greatest man who's ever lived. It is that example that John had. Now you remember, if you go back and you read about Elijah, Elijah was a man of that character too. There is a story where Elijah didn't have anything to eat, and God loved him so much that he sent the ravens to feed him. And also Elijah is one who parted the waters. Elijah is one who healed and raised someone from the dead. And so I think what Jesus is telling us here is that the soul, the spirit of Elijah, rests in John the Baptist. So that now also remember this about John the Baptist. John the Baptist was in his mother's womb when Mary, the mother, the pregnant mother of Jesus, came to visit. And the story says that John leapt in his mother's womb. So even as a gestating baby, a baby before birth, he recognized the energy of Mary and Jesus, and he had knowledge of what his purpose was going to be on this earth. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of John the Baptist, but it is certainly worthy of your studying, and so that you can see why Jesus said, a greater man has never lived. You know, Jesus tells this story as well about how the people of that time saw John the Baptist as something strange. He says that they talked about John the Baptist. They talked about the way that he dressed. Y'all know how we do that. It says that, you know, that he said, they said of John the Baptist, I'm sorry. They said of John the Baptist, he doesn't drink, he doesn't eat, but here comes Jesus, and he's eating and he's drinking. It was as though they couldn't decide who they wanted as someone that they would follow. Jesus, you know, he associated with people that people they didn't think the Son of Man should associate with, you know, publicans, sinners. Who would he have associated with? Who would he associate with today if he didn't come? If he came today, we are all sinners saved by grace, right? So, though John the Baptist ate differently, they say he ate wild locusts. He wore clothing with that made from animals' fur. He didn't dress up. He didn't dress it up. He preached in the wilderness. He baptized people. He prepared the way for Jesus. He prepared the heart of people for Jesus to come, for Jesus' message. And so he's called the forerunner. He's called the forerunner of the Messiah. The disciples, you know, they were trying to get Jesus' message. They were struggling, trying to get it. But sometimes, because of the way that they thought things should be, you know, we think people in church should dress a certain way. Used to be when I was young, you didn't go, a female didn't go in church without wearing a hat. You had to wear a hat, you know. And now we don't do that as much. The younger generation seems to think it more important that they be in church, or that they do good works, or that they get the message of Jesus, that they love some of them, and they do it in ways that kind of cast aside the traditions of the past. It doesn't seem to matter to them that some guys, you know, they don't want to wear a three-piece suit. I heard someone having a real strong argument about someone, a minister who was in the pulpit, and they were talking about, well, he didn't even have a tie on, and his shirt wasn't buttoned all the way up, and you know, Jesus is telling us those kinds of things don't matter. Listen to the message. The message is what's important, not the clothes of the person bringing the message. I want to read this last part too. That from the message, it says, this is it goes down a little further than the 19th verse. It says, how can I account for this generation? The people have been like spoiled children, whining to their parents. We want to skip rope, and you are always too tired. We want to talk, but you are always too busy. John came fasting, and they called him crazy. They called John crazy because he fasted, and he meditated, and he prayed. And it says, and I came feasting, and they called me a lush, a friend of the riffraff. Opinion polls don't count for much. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. And so what's Jesus saying to us in this lesson? He's saying that wisdom dictates that we throw out all of these ideas that we have, that you must look a certain way to be a child of God. You must act a certain way to be a child of God, rather than to be a certain way to be a child of God. And what is that message? What is it that we must be? We must bring love to whatever situation we're struggling with. It's kind of hard these days, isn't it? Especially with the people who are refusing to wear masks. We meet them in the store, and they say they have the right not to wear masks. Well, I guess they do. But what they don't have is the right to make me sick or the right to get sick, because they believe that it's a political thing not to wear a mask. I told you last week about the young man who said he saw something on television about how masks would cause us to get the virus. He said, I saw this doctor on, not on television, was on the computer, he said, on the internet. And if you remember last week, I asked him, I said, son, how in the world could you believe that? Well, I heard another example this week, and I thought this was great. I said, let me tell everybody about this. When a doctor goes into surgery to operate on a person, he's opening up their body. What does he put around his face? What does he put on his hands? And why does he do that? He puts a mask over his face to protect his patient from any germs that he might have. Where? In his mouth, in his system, on his hands. That's why we're wearing these masks. I was so disturbed to look last night at the celebration rally, whatever that was, out in South Dakota. It was disturbing because those people who were there, their seats were close together. There was no social distancing. They didn't have masks on. And they seemed to be proud that they were free not to wear masks, free to get sick if they wanted to. Didn't believe, I guess, that they could get sick. But in a crowd that size, just understand that if anybody has the coronavirus, and we know somebody has it, because the girlfriend of the president's son tested positive for the coronavirus. So we know one person had it. And here's how it goes. If somebody sneezes, if somebody coughs, and they actually were waving things in front of their faces, maybe it was hot, I don't know. If you have that germ goes to the next person. Dr. Fauci said something I thought was very wise. He said, the virus needs a host. That means the virus needs a body to be in. Now, this is wisdom. A germ cannot grow in a person if it doesn't get into the person's body. That's why we're wearing masks. So please join with me. When you go out, protect yourself and protect other people. They tell me that my area, Southeast Raleigh, is a hot spot for it. I'm not surprised. I see young people at the park, older people at the park, in large numbers. And what? They're not wearing masks. And so help me and help others. Encourage people to wear masks. That's wisdom. We say we want to be free. Jesus says, the little children said, well, you say you want, mommy, daddy, you want me to make you laugh. I tell you a joke and you cry. You say, okay, make me sad. Give me some drama. I tell you something sad. And guess what? You laugh. This generation, we want to be free. But freedom comes with responsibility. And we have entered a time right now where we're responsible for each other. We're responsible to stand up for those who are hungry. We're responsible to stand up for the wrong idea that someone has the right to put their knee on somebody's neck and that person can't breathe. And because that person wears a blue suit or whatever color suit they wear, that they have a right to take that person's life. That is not wisdom. But what does vindicate wisdom is when each of us bring love to every situation we encounter. We're going to encounter some situations this week. I know, because we're human. Somebody's going to make us mad. We got to decide what we're going to do. Sometimes we can talk to people. Remember last Sunday's lesson? I said, don't try to talk to somebody if they're not listening. Good idea. Sometimes we can talk to people. If we can empathize with them, or if they can tell the truth about what they're going through, we can help them. If they can't, don't let your spirit be disturbed. Walk away. That's love too. Sometimes somebody needs a hug. And in this time of virus and contagion, we may not be able to give them the hug that we'll be able to give them later, but we can give them a virtual hug. We can send them a card. We can call them on the telephone and tell them we miss them. Whatever we do, it is our job to put wisdom in place, and the highest form of wisdom is love. Love you. See you next week. Bye-bye.